All right, everybody. We were just talking right here. Yeah, we're just talking right here off camera, everybody. We're on week 14. Welcome, Leap into the week. Patrick Fingles, CEO of Leap. Thank you very much for joining us, everybody. Patrick, how are you doing this morning?
I'm good, man. I'm charged up this week.
Man, that's what I'm talking about. All right, everybody. Hey, so listen, I'm charged up for this one because I'm gonna be honest with you, folks. Some of the questions I get from my team, others of them I get myself. Today is completely me. All right. I need help in this area, and I'm coming to Patrick. So you're going to see me be a little bit more engaged in just even what I normally am, because I want to know the answers to these questions, and we have not talked about them online. How or offline? How do you start a successful day? How do you plan out your day as a CEO? Some of you are driving in your car. You're getting your day started. You're in the afternoon and you haven't had the productive day that you want. I'm talking to somebody today that has had an immense amount of the training on this. He's training other people on it. How do you put together a successful day as a CEO and as a leader? Patrick, I'm hoping you can help me out. My place in my company is a little bit different than yours, and I want to learn from you today, brother.
All right, man. I'm ready for it.
Starting your day. I hate getting out of bed. I love sleep. All right. My place is nice and cold, and I'm just on the covers, and I'm there, man. It feels so good. It's so good. And I've talked about on my podcast openly that I do this thing where I count back from 5. Mel Robbins suggested this, and I go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and I make sure that my feet have hit the ground by 1. Like if I can't control that in my life, what the heck can I control? And I'm wondering, man, like you've got some more distractions. You've got the kids, man. You've got the companies with an S. You've got all this stuff. Man, how do you even start? Like, what goes through your head when you wake up in the morning, Patrick? Walk me through this, like this journey of if you don't mind, because I want to know how do I make it better?
Well, I think first and foremost, like this has to be unique to you. So this, what works for me won't work for you. So, I can talk to you about my day, but I really like, if I was going to help somebody try to understand their day from a leadership, I would ask questions to you like, you love sleep. Like I would ask something simple, like, is it important to you to get up at the same time every day? Like, is that a goal? Is that something you want to accomplish?
It is right now. Yes.
You got to get up every day at the same time?
I do, because I'm doing the gym in the morning now.
Okay.
And what I found is that it allows me to work later at night.
You need about 5 hours in the gym every day, right?
I don't. I'm not that meathead guy. Come on,
you
man.
never seen Patrick. He's got suns out, guns out. All right, like
I'm trying to cover the arms here, bro.
he's got thigh arms. But anyway, so you want to get up every single day. Do you like to go to bed every time at the same time?
I wish I could, man. But in this point in the business, like the reason I'm doing it in the morning is because my day at night, like I don't know when I'm going to leave the office. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't know what the day is going to throw at me sometimes, and I don't want to feel like I've got to get out of here and go to the gym. So my nights vary very widely. I wish I could, but I can't go to the bed at the same time.
Yeah. Everybody has different things, Patrick. Like I know, like you're looking for some tips. Like I can give you some things that work for me, like some special tips that work for me. But everybody does have, a lot of uniqueness. Like one thing I just heard you say is, I don't know what time I'm leaving the office. Yep. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Because I guarantee you, when you leave the office, there's probably something that you could do if you stayed. The work's not done. I mean, when you come in the morning, do you have a million things to do?
Yeah.
Did those things just occur overnight while you were sleeping, or were they there when you left the night before?
They were there when I left.
They were there the night before. So, that's open to interpretation. I mean, when you get sick, I mean, really, really sick, do you clear your day?
Yes.
When your partner has a baby unexpectedly, do you clear your day?
Yes.
When your parents fall ill unexpectedly, do you rush to the hospital?
Absolutely.
So it's just prioritization. If you want to leave the office every day at 6 o'clock and get to the office every day at 8 a.m., and you want to make a commitment that you do not work with the most disciplined principles after 6 p.m. because you go to bed at 8 p.m. every night so you can rise up early at 5 a.m., you can do that. I promise. It'll all be waiting for you tomorrow morning. It's not going anywhere. So, it's the excuses and the tolerance of it. Now some people, like for me, I'm not, believe it or not, man, I'm not super rigid in this. I go with the flow. Somebody taught me a long time ago about work-life harmony. They're like, work-life balance is out the window. It's a harmony. Like for me, what works is I work like a freight train Monday through Friday. Like my wife is like, I don't even see you. Like, where are you? But guess what? Friday at like 3 o'clock, man, the whistle blows, and I like will not work Saturday and Sunday. I will not. I don't. I just doesn't matter. I've worked too hard. I've worked too long. I just don't do it. And that works for me. Some people might be like, I have to work on Saturdays. There are things that happen Saturday morning that won't be there on Monday because, my customer's roof fell in. Like, no, I can't, so it's like, I understand like those types of scenarios. So in that scenario, in that individual, like, no, I have to work on Saturday. I have to because we have crews and jobs going on Saturday, but I'm closing the company on Sunday. Like I'm doing it. So there's always things that you can do. And even the most important meetings get canceled. Matter of fact, somebody canceled on me a week ago because they were sick.
Listen, we're not focused on the past right now. We're focused on the future, Patrick. We're not living in the past. We're not living in the past around here. Okay. So, but let me kind of rewind here. Let me get granular with you if it's okay. Because I love what you said right here. It's the excuses and the tolerance that are holding you back from those commitments right there. All right. I'm just gonna, but when we go back to that, let's say that morning time, all right, and Monday through Friday, that's your time where you're grinding that Monday through Friday. Are you immediately waking up in the morning with that thought, that brain, you're turning, or are you taking some personal development time? I know that's been important to you in your leadership. We talked about a little bit of that last week. How do you section off that morning when you get up right now?
Listen, this is going to be hard to hear because like I love working and I love my family and I love my children. But my favorite part of the day is, when I wake up in the morning and I come downstairs and nobody's up yet, not even my dog, and I drink my cup of Folgers, which is what my father drank. And I just sit there in my chair. And sometimes the TV's not even on. Sometimes it is. Sometimes I have my laptop and I'm sending some emails. But I'm making a choice to do something. But the constant is it's typically 30 to 45 minutes of pure Patrick time every single day with a cup of coffee. And at first it was funny. I even resented my wife. I was like, well, she should get up early with me so we can have that time together. And then I was like, no, you know what? I like my time. So I do believe that, you need me time, you need work time, and you need family time, whether it's you have children, a wife, or friends, whatever you want to call that. I am, it's funny. People always label, I think it's important to determine whether you're an introvert or an extrovert. Okay. So, and I just started to understand the definition of this. I always presumed an extrovert was like, oh, Patrick Carr, he's an extrovert. Big personality, center of attention at a party, right? Got big, can stand on a stage, can talk. An introvert is somebody that's quiet. Like that was my interpretation of introvert and extrovert, but that's it, pure its form. An introvert is how if you're introverted, you recharge
Through
by being solitary. Yeah. If you're extroverted, you recharge through community and friends, whatever it may be. For me, I'm actually an introvert. So in order for me to recharge, I need peace and quiet and alone time. So that's really important for me to make sure I have that in every single day. My wife is an extrovert. Like when she's alone, it's like this nagging thing. Like she needs people around her for her energy to go up. So she's looking forward to, me coming home, getting off work and everything. So I think it's a balance of those two. But that kind of helps. But look, I'm not like you, man. I wish I was cozy in my cold blankets and I could sleep. Like my eyes open up sometimes at like 4 a.m. and I got so much running around like the hamsters on the wheel. So, I'm trying to force myself to go back to sleep. So I'm not super, super disciplined in my sleep patterns. I'm relatively disciplined. I typically wake up around 6 and I typically go to bed around 9. And then, like I said, it's a work-life harmony for me. So if I wake up and there is a call that I got to make, I make the call. I don't like not make it like I'm that disciplined. But I do know what I'm giving up, and I'm giving up that me time. And if that was very consistent, I would have to make changes in that. But I think the number one thing when somebody's like, man, I can't even control my own personal schedule, you have to take a real hard look, not about putting the barriers up, but about like the people that you have around you to kind of support your initiative so that you can have your day in that way. But I understand what you're saying. This is just personal. I like to sleep. It's not like my guys are knocking on the door at 6 a.m. waking me up. But I think, I think, one, if you love to sleep, you should make sure you get enough of that, man. 10 hours a day. So if you want to get up at 6, that means you got to be in bed by 10. That means that you got to be out of the office by 6. Man, I would work towards that. I just work back from there, you know?
It's interesting what I've been trying to do though. I have been trying to not get as much sleep because it's something that I'm comfortable with. And I've been trying to say, okay, Pat, you don't need that. So let's do what you're uncomfortable with to try to improve that day. Like I know what I want. I could sleep. I could be in if sleeping was in the Olympics, I could do it. Like I could practice hard. It lasts for, I mean, I am that guy. But
Yeah.
I mean, no problem sleeping 14, 16 hours. I mean, easy. But
Yeah.
so I'm trying to curve myself away from that. And I think a lot of leaders though, man, they struggle with their day when they're not maybe on the whole time. You're talking about you're having that alone time and you're recharging and you're having that moment. I think some leaders out there, man, they struggle with being alone or having that introspective time to think. It sounds like it's been a very important part of your day to have
Yeah,
that
that that
moment.
that would be a great challenge, man. I haven't asked anybody to do anything through 14 weeks. If you think about it, like when's the last time you were alone for any significant amount of time? I'm not talking about at the airport or on a flight. I'm talking about alone in a house, in a park, just by yourself for not having to conversate. Not talking about hanging out with your friends or playing golf with a foursome. That's not me time. Me time is totally shut down. So if you think about that and you're like, Jesus, God, man, like the last time I was alone was when my wife went to her mother's on Saturday. And the first thing I did was invite the neighbors over and we watched football.
Mm.
Like, think about the last time that you spent real alone time, not connected to a phone, not connected to an email or computer. Just do whatever you want. You watch TV, whatever you want. And if you haven't done that for a while, you should do that and see how you feel on the back end of that. I would
It's a
encourage you to do something more methodical than lay around the thing. Like go for a drive. Like go to a neighboring town that's like maybe 30 minutes away. That's like a cool town to be in. Go to lunch by yourself. It's this very freeing thing not to have to worry about like, oh, where do you want to eat? What are you going to get? Do you want to split? You think the wait's too long? It's like decision making for one. And I think that's really important. What do you want to watch? Like, which way do you think we should go to get there? You think this is too far away to park? Like, even when you're with friends, you still have to take into consideration everything else that everybody's doing. Some of the highest performing CEOs, like they'll go away for weeks at a time on like CEO retreats. They leave their wives, they leave their kids, they leave their businesses, they leave their phones, and they go to these places and it's just sabbatical. And it's just a recharge for their mind. So if you're a high performer and you're operating at that level, you need some alone time. I have a house in St. Michael's. Every once in a while, my wife's like, go ahead. And I'll just go down there for 2 days. And I just cook myself a steak and I sit at my table and eat it by myself. And it's weird. You almost feel guilty at first
Mhm.
when you do it. You feel guilty because maybe you
Yep.
have kids or whatever, but yeah, it would be a challenge. I'd love to get anybody's feedback. Be like, hey, Patrick, I heard the podcast. My wife thought I was crazy, but I told her I was going up to Virginia this Saturday, and I was going to go to the Air and Space Museum by myself and have lunch. And she thought I was a jerk, but I did it, and it was magnificent. Like I'd love to get some feedback on that. So I think that that's really important.
I think you're right, man. I want to end with this because I'm going to ask you a question on this because you just mentioned something that I think a lot of people, as they're planning out their day, they really struggle with, in that they're trying to plan this time with their family, their children, maybe their friends, a kickball league, Patrick, and they're an entrepreneur. I struggle with this. Okay, this again is all my questions. So, like, I get to planning this stuff, and I'll get there, and I'll feel guilty about being there. I'll feel guilty about having that steak alone, or that I'm away from answering the emails and I'm not doing what I should be doing. And like I feel as though sometimes if I'm having my therapy session with Patrick Fingles, CEO president over Leap, that like maybe it's passing me by. Maybe I feel like I'm not doing everything I can for my people. I'm not doing everything I can for my family. And I'm curious, man, like, is that a normal feeling to kind of to feel that way and to push through it? And have you had that before? Because I got to think there's leaders and entrepreneurs
Yeah.
that, man, it's tough, brother. So has that ever been something that crossed your mind?
It's guilt, man, but I think, like, maybe it's just in movies or something, but think about the monk that's, like, sitting on top of the hill, like, everything else can just wait. It really can. It goes back to the same thing where you're like, "Man, I never know what time I'm leaving the office, so I can't go to the bed at the same time." So I have varying, like, you're trying to make this commitment to wake up at the same time, so my very first question is, "Well, are you committed to going to bed at the same time?" Because if you're like, "No, I'm not committed to going to bed at the same time," I was like, "So then the only thing you're committed to is having a variable, moods based on how much sleep you got the night before." You can't like wash it away. Like, you have to get yourself into a regimen. Like, so if you go to sleep at 10 and you work up at 6 every day and you're like disciplined on that, then at least you know what it feels like to operate on 8 hours sleep. And you do that for a period of time. And it's either enough or it's not enough. Counting to 5, putting your feet on the floor. Love that. It's a quick trick just to get yourself out of bed. Put the alarm clock in the bathroom. I mean, just, because if you get up, you're out. That way you don't have to do, but it's really about, like, it's the same thing in business. Like, there's a commitment. And then most time when people make a commitment, there's a commitment that's like, that it also impacts that, so it's the same things. Like, it all runs the same. It's a business operation. It's just being disciplined. But like I said, I mean, you think Gandhi, like, cared that he was missing a meeting when he was doing self-reflection or something like that? Like, I don't think so.
No.
Nelson Mandela spent 20 years in a prison. And he went on to be one of the greatest leaders of all time. And a lot of what he learned and a lot of his self-education and were alone with his own thoughts in a prison. So surely, if you need to, go somewhere for, 8 hours every 2 weeks or 8 hours a week and unplug. Yeah, I think that there is. I think most of mankind would be like they're missing something, or again, it's a feeling of guilt. But I think that if you have any level of emotional intelligence, you probably think you'd be like, well, that's I got to get over that because that's stupid. And so, I mean, it's a quick, like, I want to be disciplined. I want to be like Mark Zuckerberg, I wake up every day at 4 a.m. Like, maybe that's somebody's reality. Maybe it's not. But the first question I ask is like, well, what time you go to bed? 6? Because nobody operates on 4 hours sleep.
Yeah.
Not with any level of health. And if and so if you want to have, healthy mind, healthy body, and be a top performer, you need, you need 7 to 8 hours, 9 hours of sleep. So if you want to get up at 6, you got to go to bed at 8 or whatever, 10, whatever it is, So, you just got to know that you're home in time to take a shower, eat some dinner, and go to bed. And then, make sure you squeeze in some me time. It's really refreshing, man.
It's a real gym for me, man. And this is something I'm going to take away. Just like I took vulnerability away a few weeks ago when we were talking. I think that what you're saying is that, if you're going to be committed in your day to one side, or your commitments have two sides. For instance, if I want to make more money in my company, sure, I can cut costs, but I've got to bring in more revenue. If all I'm saying is I'm going to bring in more revenue, I'm just going to spend more, I'm not really doing a benefit. If I'm just saying I'm going to get up at this time, but I'm not committed to going to bed at the same time, I'm just screwing myself over and perhaps screwing over some of my employees as well. As you said, you're just adhering to how much sleep you got.
Yeah,
I would ask people, man, like, are you committed to both sides of whatever your commitment is?
yeah.
There seems to be two sides to it, brother.
Yeah. What do you have to do in order to meet that commitment?
Man, there we go.
Like what, in order for me to be able to meet, and it's, man, last week we talked about that. Like, we talked about making, maybe somebody shows up, they show up late as like an example. They've been late a few times. You sit down and you say, what are you committed to? Well, man, I'm committed to doing this. I'm going to leave 30 minutes earlier, blah, 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 blah. Okay, great. And you're backing into those commitments. I'm not just committed to getting here on time. I have to change all these behaviors in order to meet the commitment. And then we even said, okay, well, what's got to happen? What will happen if you don't meet your commitment?
Yeah,
so that's a really important part of the conversation. So you want to go to bed. Let's just do it real quick. You want to wake up every day at 6 a.m. You want your feet to hit the floor. You know that in order to be able to commit to that, you got to be in bed every day at 10. Let's say hypothetically you break those commitments. What would your consequence be to yourself? And that'll tell you how committed you are. You'd be like, well, man, what? I woke up at 7, whatever. I just wake up and go to work. It's not that big of a deal. Be like, well, then maybe that shouldn't be a commitment. Because how committed to it are you if the consequence is nothing?
Yeah, you're not committed at all, man.
You're not committed at all, and maybe you don't need to be. Like, man, I'm Patrick Carr, man. I come to work when I wake up, and that's variable.
Man, I ain't that guy. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like,
But you're right. It's a conversation. If you're planning out your day, you should start to have. What are your real commitments, and what is the stuff that's just plain out BS? that you just
Yeah.
want to tell yourself that you want to do every day, but you don't really want to do it.
Yeah, we talked about education, and one of the last things that you said in the thing, it was like, "Hey, go out there and learn. If you want to be a leader, you have to learn." Patrick, 6 years leadership training books. Remember, it's not gospel; it's just ideas. So when you hear this crap, there's a lot of noise, and like it's gospel to that person. It changed their life. That does not mean it's what will change yours. So, like when somebody speaks gospel and you read a book about being disciplined with your day and your time, that might be gospel to that person, and you can read it and you can learn from it, but you don't have to make it your gospel, because if you make everybody else's truth yours, well, then you don't. I mean, it's impossible. Then you have no center, you have no truth. There's nothing unique about you. So, I think it's important in the noise of education and all this podcasts and everything to understand that listen and learn and take away, but always be yourself and always think about what's important to you. And that's a really cool thing. I would love to be the guy that's disciplined enough that I wake up every day, I eat lunch at the same time, I do the same exercises, I never miss the gym. That ain't me. I'm not even going to try to commit to it. It's not me. That's an example, hypothetical. Maybe I am that guy, but that's not me. That's not my commitment. Like there's guys that's like, hey man, it doesn't matter what time it is. I stop working at 5 o'clock every single day. That's my family time. I come home. I spend 2 hours with my wife every single day. It's the most important thing to me. Changed everything for me. Great. And you can long for that, and you can think about how that would impact your life, and you can embody it, and you can make it part of your gospel. However, it doesn't have to be. Not in order for you to be successful in life. So
Man,
you
there's so
gotta
many
take
takeaways.
it bite by bite.
I hope that people do comment on at least my YouTube when you watch it there. Please comment on your schedule below and what you took away from here. I got 4 takeaways from this one, Patrick, and the first one is my favorite. It's the excuses and the tolerance holding you back from your commitments. I wrote down this one, but I haven't been committed to both sides of what I want. That's when it comes to the bed thing. Determine the right schedule for you. I've underlined the word you, like you just talked about. Hey, the gospel for somebody else may not be the gospel for you. And then I love this, man. The question and the challenge that you had for the people that are watching is just, when was the last time you were alone and truly alone? And that to me speaks a lot, because I'm trying to think in my head as we have the conversation and I can't think of the time. And so maybe I do need some alone time. I wonder what I would even think about. And so I think that probably goes for a lot of people out there, brother. So I think it's a fair question and one people need to ask.
Yeah. And don't when you do your alone time, I'm gonna follow up with you on this. I
Talk to
want
me.
to hear, like, I'm looking out your window right now and I see a city, I guess, behind you, and it looks nice. There's something that you could do on a day or a night or a weeknight. Don't stop at the pub on your way home. That's not the type of quality alone time I'm talking about. I'm talking about do something. Take a trip by yourself. Go away for a day. Go away for a night. Go stay in a hotel, not because you're in transit going to a customer's house, but because you just wanted to experience it. Give yourself, 10 hours of alone time, not binge watching Netflix or watching sports on the sofa because your wife took the kids to their sisters. I'm talking about, hey, I'm going to go do something that I would typically do in a group or with another person, and I'm going to do it by myself. And I'm going to see what that feels like.
I'll tell you what I do next week. Maybe a
All
couple
right.
weeks, but I will tell you what I do.
Yeah. I'll tell you what
You
I
got
do
my
too.
word.
I do
Okay,
it
it's
all
a
the
deal.
time, so it'll be easy. I'm not even going to think about it. I'll just tell you what I did. Right. So probably going to involve a boat and some fishing, I think.
Well, there
Probably.
we go. Folks, I'll tell you what, we'll see you next week here. Leap into the week. We're winding up 14 here. Go back, check them all out. We got some incredible stuff. We'll be back next week, though, for week 15. Leap into the week. Have yourself a wonderful, wonderful next few days ahead. Until next time, everybody.